For over a decade, Owen Farrell has dominated the England 10 shirt, with a forward Farrell axis thrown in for good measures. But with Faz off to France, and no sign of the RFU changing their selection policy, that leaves the door open for some young fresh blood to wear that famous jersey.
Yet another solo effort from the Harlequins maestro.
A bit of help, and here's Tom Ahern trying to go through. Was he taken out of it there?
47 metres. He does have the wind behind me, but he's hit it absolutely on the money.
The way that Marcus plays is really, really interesting. He's not a particularly connected 10 in the way that lots of other players are connected to their pods of forwards. He's very much a bit of a free spirit, really. He's allowed to have free reign, has license to just change direction as and when he wants, and he's not really interested in those first couple of phases. He's just waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a type 5 forward to pick on, rather than going after every phase. What he does really, really well is picks his moments and who to pick on. With Marcus not being so connected to those pods, it gives him time to scan the field, really, and see which side of the field is better to attack. So the more time he's got by not connecting to that pod of forward to see whether the ball out the back is on, or to see whether the tip is on, or just maybe clean a ruck, what it gives him is an opportunity to see where a type 5 forward is, where the space is, who he can find a mismatch against. And what he does really well is, with the way that he's allowed to play, especially with Quins, he's able to just switch direction. And I think what's really important to say is that when he plays in a Quins shirt in particular, people react off that as well. They know that Marcus has got the ability for 1 minute to play the same way, and all of a sudden, last minute, change his direction, come back on like a bit of a loop with Danny Kerr or whoever the nines may be, and it makes it really, really difficult, especially when you're defending both sides of the ball. So if there's a ruck in the middle of the park and Marcus has got the ability to play both sides, your defence at A and B in particular have to come up high, otherwise he's going to make you look pretty silly. I think in terms of sitting in the pocket, what sitting in the pocket means is just buying time. He's not looking to be a threat on every phase, and that's something Marcus has got a lot better at over the last 6 to 12 months. He doesn't want to be a threat every single phase. You look at the very, very best in the world to have done that is someone like a Dan Carter, who for 4, 5, 6 phases not interested in play. But all of a sudden then, just from sitting in behind, scanning where the opportunities are, all of a sudden, bang, he's exploiting a hole, he's exploiting a loose forward, he's switching direction. And by sitting in the pocket, that means he's got more time to scan, more time on the ball, more time to choose his opportunity. And the way Quins play, quite often they're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7 phases where they're not actually in particularly good shape. But what Marcus is doing is just biding his time to make an opportunity or find an opportunity to go and exploit that. And by sitting in the pocket, gives him way more time to choose the best option. One of Marcus's huge strengths as a 10, especially in the modern day game, is his running threat. What he wants to do is he wants to beat people, whether that's for speed, whether that's with footwork, whether that's with little chips over the top. He wants to beat people. And I think that's such a threat, because when you're defending a 10 who just passes, you can focus your attention on your 12, on your 13, on the inside runners, whatever it is. But with Marcus, what he's got the ability to do is challenge the line at every opportunity he's got the ball. So every time he's got the ball, you're thinking, this guy could run. So it's a huge opportunity for others around him as well. And that's why you see so many short balls from Marcus when he's got that goose step or when he's looking to step back on the inside, because he has to be defended. He has to be respected by the inside pillar, the outside pillar, the guy marking Esterhazy, the guy marking Dombrandt on the inside. So what he does really, really well is challenge the line every single time he has the ball. He's got the full bag of tricks, Marcus. His chip kick is exceptional. And again, that's from sort of seeing the space. He loves to have time on the ball. He's a type of player, if you give him time on the ball, he's got the full bag of tricks. And you look at some of the tries he scored from those just off the cuffs, really, off the cuff chips, where he's just seen a bit of space, changed direction, caught the full back out. Again, his identification to see space, his ability to read the game, and not try that when it's not on. I think that's where he's really improved over the last 12 months as well. His perhaps maybe overdoing that a little bit early on in his career, but you look at the moments in which he does it now, and it's a really, really impressive part of his game. And again, an area which opposition 9s, opposition 15s and wingers have to be wary of when he's got ball in hand. The way Finn plays, he's very, very, very good at moving the ball, showing to the inside, playing to the outside. You look at a lot of the times where he's got two forwards on the outside of him, forward on the inside. The ability for him to create one-on-ones, to be able to put people through space is really, really impressive for a young guy who's 21 years old in his, I suppose, his first real full season at proper rugby in terms of playing for Northampton with a load of pressure on him. And the way he moves the ball to the line, not a huge attacking threat to try and beat people one-on-one himself, but his ball movement, all of a sudden, with a bit of ball movement, it creates people to jump in, to try and think he can get to him as a defender, and his ability to play really, really late at the line sets him apart probably at the minute as the best playmaker in England, I would say. He's still very much a running threat, but what he does, he challenges the line in a very, very different way to perhaps other 10s, where he's not looking to beat you with a big fend, with a sidestep, with a bit of footwork. What he's trying to do is he's trying to get you to double guess by pumping the ball, by ball movement, by looking to get you to move off him. And as soon as as a defender, you're lateral on him, he's taking that space, freeing his arms, getting an offload in. The amount of offloads he's produced this year has been brilliant, whether it's out the back door, whether it's winning the contact from keeping defences guessing, from being really positive with the ball. And that's something that I know that he's worked on incredibly hard, because the shape that Northampton play, they always play a 3-man forward off 9. Then they'll play a 2-man forward off 10 with a ball on the inside. So that ball on the inside keeps the defence honest, allows him to move the ball, and as soon as the defence comes off him, he's taking that space, freeing his arms and creating space for other people. It's really, really impressive to see, and something that he's going to have to get even better at to play at England. His ability to kick the ball has improved dramatically in the last 12 months also. He's very, very good at some attacking kicks, the amount of cross-field kicks he does, which leads to tries, which leads to breaks, and again, keeping defences honest. He looks like he's got time on the ball all the time. For me, that's one of the most impressive things about Finn. As a 21-year-old, it shouldn't look that easy to him, but it really, really looks like he's just got the time. It looks like the cross-field kick, when he does it, it looks like it's the right option. It doesn't look rushed. And again, it just sets him apart in terms of, I know that he's worked incredibly hard, because probably the kicking side of it isn't his strong point. And I know from speaking to him personally that he's worked on that incredibly hard with Jake Sharp, who's the kicking coach in Northampton Saints, and looking to try and improve that game. But his attacking kicking game is as good as anybody out there. I think from a point of view of putting people into space, whether it's with the ball in hand, whether it's finding little crossfield kicks, it's a real skill, and it's the way to beat defences at the minute. So where do these two great players differ, and where are they very similar in the way that they play the game? Well, the way that they differ is how they attack the line very differently. Like we've mentioned, Finn's all about ball movement, and Marcus is all about trying to beat you one-on-one, trying to create the space with his footwork, with his pace, with his ability to beat you one-on-one, whereas Finn is very, very much about ball movement, getting you to bite in, getting you to jump in so you can lift a little ball on the inside, lift a little ball on the outside, play people through holes, whereas Marcus is just looking to out and out beat you, mug you off and make you look absolutely silly. So the way that they threaten the line is very, very different, but very, very effective in the way that they both do it. Also, the way in which they differ, the way in which they play the game, clearly depends on what style of play they play, whether they're playing for England, whether they're playing for Quins, whether they're playing for Saints. But for me, Finn is connected every single time in a pod. So he's looking to try and create one-on-ones with the forwards. He's looking to try and be alive all the time and look at those opportunities. Stay alive. I know it's something Sam Vesti is really keen on as an attack coach. Always wants the players in behind that pod of forwards to stay connected, challenge the line. Whereas, as we've said, Marcus is a free spirit. He's got the ability, he's got the license to just roam and pick his moments. Whereas Saints' attack, even though they play pretty similar and score a lot of points, Saints' attack is actually really, really structured, and Finn is absolutely crucial to that in the way that he directs play, being connected out of the first pod, showing how they play that second pod of forwards and just moving his team around. Whereas Marcus, I wouldn't say that Quins play that way. I'd say that Quins are very, very much look, they play in this way one phase, the next phase they're looking to switch direction, and that's what gives Marcus the ability to beat people one-on-one, the ability to put little kicks in, little chips in, because he's got the ability to scan all the time, and they're a bit more fast and loose with the way they play. Whereas Northampton, and Finn in particular, is really structured in the way that he plays the game. but still as effective with the ball in the line, with a running threat, with a kicking game, as Marcus is. But they play in very, very different ways. One thing a lot of people don't, I suppose, associate with Marcus Smith is just how tough he is. I think back to that game against Fiji in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, and he took an absolute battering by some big, powerful, strong men and just kept getting back up and back up and back for more. And you see the amount of times that people are challenging him physically in the Premiership. You know, the Premiership, you've got big number 8s running at you every single week. The ability, how many times he gets smashed in contact, and he just keeps coming back and back and back. And you can see from his passion and his desire when they score a try, when he puts someone through a hole, it's because he's absolutely worked his socks off, got absolutely whacked 3 or 4 times. And you can see that passion. That's something I absolutely love about him. He's as tough as nails, and probably something he doesn't get anywhere near as much credit for. So if you're going to play 10 for England against South Africa, against New Zealand, against Ireland, against France, you have to be pretty tough, as Owen and George Ford and people like that have shown over the last 10 years. For me, with Finn, something that he's really, really good at, and something that people won't pick up on, is how competitive he is, how aggressive he is, how much he fights for absolutely every single blade of grass, every sort of win in a game in training, and his ability to just be mentally tough and keep going, and being able to win the challenge of the Blackiston Challenge, which we called it at Northampton Saints. I won it in my first year, and then Finn came along, replaced me in the team, and then took my record of the Blackiston as well, where you have to carry sandbags for 1,000 metres over your shoulders, then run 2.5k, and then 2.5k back. So that just goes to show it's got nothing to do with rugby, but it means that you're competitive. It means that you've got the will to win, want to win for your teammates, want to win for yourself, and that shows in everything that he does in terms of on the training pitch, on the match pitch. Slightly less angry at the refs than myself, but speaking to players who've played with him and the limited time I spent with him, he's got all the attributes of an Owen Farrell type person in terms of that number 10 shirt and being able to drive standards and want to be the best in every single play of the game, which is going to be a huge part for him moving forward. You clearly have to have the skill sets of what Marcus and Finn have got, but you also have to have the ability to be perhaps a 7.5 out of 10 week in, week out, as the likes of Johnny Sexton, Owen Farrell, George Ford have done over the last 10 years. And sometimes that means you don't get the plaudits that perhaps your breaks or your try assists or your kicks to touch, whatever it is, you may not get that. But what you have to be is you have to be super, super solid. You have to manage the game. You have to manage your team's energy. If the team are losing energy in the wrong part of the field, you have to be the person to suss out, is the time to kick now? Do we go 2 more phases, 3 more phases, 4 more phases? And that's where it all comes down to you. There's going to be a huge amount of pressure on these two lads over the next sort of 5, 6, 7 years. And that's what comes with playing 10 for England. And why Owen and George have been so successful is that they've confronted that head on. They've enjoyed it. They've embraced it. They've been mentally tough. They've taken criticism. And you probably, when you play 10 for England, when you play 10 for any team, you probably take more criticism than is warranted. But you also, for the moments where you produce brilliant moments, where you win test matches, where you win Grand Slams, win Six Nations, you get more praise as well. And that's something that they're going to have to manage over the next 10 years playing rugby for England, because the highs are extremely high and the lows are extremely low as well when you don't quite get it right. So for me, what you need as a world-class 10 is you need the skill set, the ability to put people through holes, the ability to find space on the field, but you also need the ability to manage a game, to be mentally tough, to make sure that you're a 7.5 out of 10 every single week. And that's what separates the best 10s from the guys who are very much flash in the pan. So who should be England's next 10? If you look at the pros and cons for both Marcus and for Finn, Finn's ability to manage a game is probably slightly ahead of Marcus's in the way that how structured that Northampton plays. So he's getting more practice at being in those positions, in those tight games where it's not so perhaps hair and scare 'em and loose as perhaps when Quins play. But I think for me, Finn's ability to bring people into play is a huge part. You look at Owen and George and the way that England have played over the last 10 years. It's been not so much their individual ability, but their ability to bring people into play, your Vunipolas, your Manu Tuolangis, guys like that, and get the best out of those guys. And that's what Finn's doing currently at the minute. So for me, Finn's game management is probably slightly ahead of Marcus's at this moment, even though Marcus has improved in that area dramatically. But if you're looking at someone who's going to produce moments of magic, moments of brilliance, potentially win you games in a tight game, I think you look at someone like Marcus Smith and you won't go far wrong. His ability to see space, his ability to beat defenders, his ability to just move the game around and challenge defences all over the park is something very, very special. And who should play number 10 for England? Steve Borthwick is the guy who's going to have to decide that. How do they play? How do they want to play? The way that they've played during the World Cup, you would suggest someone like a Finn Smith character will be better suited in terms of being really organised, disciplined, kicking game improving, challenging the line. But the way that they've played in the last couple of Six Nations games, you'd have to say someone like Marcus comes into play with his amazing footwork, his amazing speed, his amazing box of tricks, and just the ability to move the game around in the way that England have wanted to play for the last probably 3 or 4 years. They've played with pace, they've played with power, and it's allowed boys like Marcus to get on the front foot, pull the trigger, and have licence. So Steve Borthwick's got a big decision to make over the next couple of months. Does he throw Finn Smith in the deep end in a test series in New Zealand? Or does he go for someone like Marcus, who's got a little bit more experience at that level, and hope that they complement each other really well? For me, this moment in time, they're both playing in successful club teams. They're both playing with so much confidence. I don't think it matters who plays 10 for England at the minute. They complement each other really, really well. A little bit like Owen and George did back in their prime. And for me, I do believe if it was up to me, I would probably stick with Finn at the minute. I would give him an opportunity to go and showcase his talent against the best in the world in one of the most difficult places to go and win rugby matches. With Marcus's ability to come off the bench, to read the game, to challenge defensive when they're a little bit more tired, with his ability to also cover fullback as well.
Rugby Pod.